Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday! We made it to the end of another work week, and you get WKYC for 30 minutes today.
Jay, you need your mic.
Hold on.
Everybody's worried about me.
I'm literally watching Jason put on his stuff thinking, oh, he's not going to make it.
And then he was like, yeah.
I was like, ooh, it's going to be right down to the wire.
About that.
Hey, how about the NFL draft last night?
Yeah, it was great.
On
Awesome,
a 1 to 10, interest-wise,
Yeah.
I was a 0.
On the draft?
And I've never been that way my entire life.
I said that
I didn't
yesterday.
watch one frame of it. I followed it on my phone.
Yeah, I watched it. I got into it. I knew they was going to have a big run on quarterbacks. I was hoping they would have a run on quarterbacks. So a lot of the guys that we might want today could be available because people reached on quarterbacks.
They always overreach for quarterbacks. We're going to get into trends, what we liked, what we didn't like. What was your takeaway, Jay? From a Browns perspective, it wasn't boring. It was non-existent.
Right,
but what was your takeaway thumbnail?
Honestly, I thought of Mike. I think Mike has said this before about if you don't have a quarterback, you just keep going until you find one.
Yeah. Look at the Falcons.
Yeah. You know what? I actually didn't hate that pick.
Oh,
Save it. We're
Yeah,
going to talk about
save
that
it.
in a second.
Save it, because I hated it.
All right.
Not only did I hate that they took a quarterback, I hated the quarterback they took.
Well, that's different. Like, you can have that.
Yeah.
We can.
But you know what?
I
I mean,
agree with you on
what are you
that.
going to go with, J.J. McCarthy? Like, it was, I don't know.
I don't think it's a good quarterback draft at all.
I don't either. That's why I was so stunned that it went
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I love
I
them.
think the best one of the bunch is going to be 2.
Could be right.
All right, lot to get to on that. The Cavs.
Can we talk about the draft again?
The Cavs missed their alarm clock. Is the only thing I can think of. They showed up late. Actually, they didn't show up at all. Wow. A dichotomy of their season.
Yep.
They can be all-time great. They can be all-time ass. And yesterday we saw the latter. I don't even know how to. I don't know what to make of it. They were so bad. I don't even know where to begin. So we'll dive into that. Also, the Guardians. I know the rundown says we got to talk about what happened yesterday, but it was yesterday afternoon. It's almost outside the 24-hour rule. So we will talk about that because that's what we planned for. But I'm also really intrigued about this coming series. I think this is where the rubber meets the road. The Braves. We know what they are. There's, all the excuse makers for why the Guardians have the best record in baseball might get some ammunition this weekend, depending on what happens in Atlanta. So we'll talk about the Braves, Guardians, that and so much more. 90-minute show. Then we flip over to WKYC Channel 3. In the meantime, our first hello and good morning of the day to Mikey McNuggets. Did you like the draft?
I was watching the Cavs. I was trying to peel my eyeballs out with the ice cream scooper. And then I did a
It's like
post-game
watching
show.
your house burn down.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
like you got to turn away at some point.
I was watching. I was following. I went to bed at the 20-something pick. Browns weren't picking a 54. It's hard to be invested. We knew they weren't going to trade up. But I will say, and we'll talk about this in a sec. To G's point, a lot of players who we have been connecting the Browns to, who I think can turn out to be very good pros, are still on the board. And AB can go in a number of different directions, and I feel pretty
But are there
confident.
22
Yeah,
of
I
them?
was going to say, there's a lot of picks before we get to 54 still.
I'm excited that some of the guys slid to where they slid, but I'm also not naive enough to know they'll be gone by the time we go 54.
But it's a lot easier to move from 54
Yeah.
to 40 to get a guy.
Yes.
Well, that's
than
a
it is
fact.
From
That's-
54 to
now,
26.
On that note, I try to psych myself up and to say, hey, we're going to trade up. Andrew Berry never trades up.
No, but this might be the one year where I think they would consider it, only because we've talked about it before. How many spots do they really have on this 53 for rookies?
2, 3?
So,
If that.
so why not, even if you have to dip into next year, why not move up?
Yeah, but don't
and
mess
get a
with the
guy?
one.
Well,
Obviously
obviously
you
not.
wouldn't.
Obviously not. Not
But-
the one. But if you need to throw in a third for next year
I'm
to go up.
completely
Yeah,
on board. In fact, I had set up alerts with the draft and Browns trade.
I don't know why that was funny.
That was all I did because I was getting the updates with every pick,
Right.
so I could analyze it and look at it. Some of them shocked me. Some of them I think held form. But I did set up some alerts for Browns trade because I wanted to watch if that was going to happen.
Of course.
And I literally had talked myself into exactly what you just said. We've got maybe 3 spots open on the roster for next year. You're not going to need 6 draft picks.
Right.
You're going to end up cutting 3 or 4 of them. So package something up, move up while the window's open, and go for that home run hit. But it just didn't happen. Now, it might happen early second, but it didn't happen yesterday.
Well, you got the run on quarterbacks, and everybody jumped out. You know, I look at the Raiders. I thought the Raiders was in a prime position to get a quarterback. They get on the clock one before them. You look at what Denver does and goes up and go get Bo Nix. And then you see the run on offensive lineman after that. Then an offensive lineman went. So the 3 places this draft is really heavy and really solid at was, there was a lot of quarterbacks people were going to get. There was offensive line. Now it was the receivers. You saw Xavier Legette go late first round. You saw Marvin Harrison. You got
Neighbors
and all those guys and Nduze. Now it comes down to these second tier guys, right? So hopefully the Browns can get in with one of them second tier guys,
right?
And they got a couple picks late, and I don't think that many people are going to make this squad.
Yeah, we'll see if hopefully they will trade up. That'll make the night a lot more interesting. If they do that. Much more draft talk to come. We're going to start with the Cavs, but first, Mikey has some business to take care of.
Yeah, guys, as always, it is Friday, and every Friday, our show is sponsored by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And our winning ticket today comes from Cody Neiswanger, who hit a 5-part parlay on the overs from 5 different NBA playoff games over the last 2 nights. He had the over in the Heat Celtics points, over in the Pelicans Thunder, over in the Cavs Magic, over in the Knicks Sixers, over in the Nuggets Lakers. All 5 of those hit, and Cody turned $10 into $256. Nice win there for Cody Neiswanger. And if you have a winning ticket, as always, make sure you guys send us in your tickets on Twitter too, so they can be featured on the show.
He went overs in the playoffs.
Well, you should have seen the ticket from yesterday.
What was it?
Dude bet every game and hit. Every baseball game. Went 13 for 13.
What did it pay?
You remember what it was, Mike?
It was $1 paid close to $800. 13-part parlay.
That's impossible.
He bet the money line on
money
every
line
one?
on 13 games.
On 13 games.
Man,
it's like
that
he
is-
bet the whole day and hit every
But
one.
what I'm
Baseball.
wondering is the fact that he only bet $1 tells me he probably made 10 bets. I'm not sure on this one. This one could go either way. So I'm going to take the Red Sox and I'm going to take the Guardians. But that's still impressive.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Go 13 for
that's
13.
like throwing darts in the dark.
Yeah.
When you're getting into that kind of number.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah. 13 for 13.
We had Wednesday. You weren't here. Wednesday we had a guy who it was just a 2-leg.
Yeah.
He bet that 2 specific players were going to get
I
first
saw that.
first pitch
I was
hits.
watching.
And I think, and I've talked to some other guys who know gambling way better than I do, everybody kind of agrees this is a temporary loophole, and it will be shut.
Really?
Yes.
Dang,
we
Jay.
all kind of think that it could be
Don't say nothing.
a temporary loophole.
Don't say nothing.
Because if you place enough of those, it pays such big odds.
So you have to bet before the game that X batter will be the first up to get a hit.
No,
in
you
X
can-
No. First pitch in the at-bat.
first pitch
base
of
hit.
that bet.
Oh, it doesn't matter who the batter is?
Doesn't matter. No, it
it
does.
does, but you
You're
could
picking
live bet,
2
so-
specific players. And the way, from the folks that I talked to, the way to do it is the way he did it. Take a guy that's got a 33% chance of getting a hit.
Yeah.
And he did in Acuna. So you take a guy like Jose,
Okay.
or a guy that, even right now, Quan would be a safe bet. And you're hoping that he gets the hit on the first pitch. Then the other guy is just a dude. Just a random guy that is a long shot, but it's still paid. So he made $6,000.
Wow.
On a $5 bet.
Not a
But you have to
$5
pick
bet.
the right inning?
No, any at-bat during the game.
Okay.
No, it's during specific at-bats.
No, it said anytime at-bats. That ticket did.
I'm telling you, Jay, as someone
Yeah,
Go
I thought
back
it was
and look.
it was
And
the
he-
8th
he
inning.
sent
I
us
thought.
2.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
it's-
back and look
it's-
because when it was red, I thought you said at any time at-bat.
he live bet for that at-bat.
Okay, got you.
That makes totally difference.
Yeah, he bet for
Are
that
you
at-bat.
sure about that?
Yes.
Okay, then it wasn't clear
It's
when you read
Alante.
it.
He sent in 2 of them now. You could live bet per at-bat. So you could live bet on Jose today. In his
Yes.
first at bat, what will Jose
Okay,
do?
but there's two legs to it. So how you're betting simultaneously two guys that are up right now,
So, like-
or in their next at bat?
I don't want to spend 20 minutes explaining how gambling works. So,
No, you're explaining this bet, Mike.
So, yeah, well,
And
my point is,
you did not explain that on Wednesday. I want to
can
go back
bet-
and look how you explained it.
you can go
sorry,
at any
it's-
at bat for any player.
Yes.
Let's say Jose's up in the next inning. I know he's coming up.
Okay, when you said any at bat, that to me said any at bat in the game.
No. That's,
Yeah, okay, that's where the
specific
misunderstanding
at-bat.
came
Yes.
from.
That's why it's like, all right, one game could be in the 8th inning and one game could be in the 4th inning. If it's a 1 o'clock start versus a 1:40 first pitch, it's
Right.
not all the same. So you can say Jose in Jose's next at bat, first pitch single, and in Acuna's next at bat, first pitch single. It's not the entire game. It's for that specific at bat.
Yeah, but the two at bats could be separated by an hour.
Yeah. You can win one, you don't win the bet till both hit.
But you're placing them both at the same time.
Yeah, at some point Jose's going to get up again. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, I wouldn't touch that bet then. That's okay. Then there's
That's why
not
the
a
odds are
loophole.
so astronomical.
Yeah, and that literally is throwing darts in the
Yes.
dark.
Yes.
That is absolutely.
And,
That's like
and he's done it twice.
that. Literally is like betting that you're going to flip a coin, and 10 times in a row you're going to correctly pick where it's going to land.
Yes.
And you got 50-50 chance each time.
Yeah.
That is why
Yeah,
a
that's not a good
$5
bet.
bet paid out $6,600.
Yeah. But that's not even.
Wow.
That's
I'm
just
sure you
nutso
can
bet.
bet at one point. Hey,
Any at bat.
I think you can.
Now
But
that's
for
what
this
I would be
specific
interested in.
one,
That's what I would do.
that's why the payouts are so high.
Yeah, I would
All right.
like to know what the payoffs would be on that bet.
Yeah.
On the any time in a game at bat.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, because it probably won't be as long.
Definitely will not be as long.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Cavs. I know it's painful. It was the worst playoff
We
loss
put it off as long as we
in team history. We
Oh,
tried
yeah,
to
one
delay
another
it.
thing. Jeez, I don't want to talk Cavs.
But the reality is, it was a 121-83 loss. The Cavs waved the white flag midway through the second quarter. Nothing went right. Nothing.
Third
not
quarter.
a single, in my opinion, not a single real positive to take away from that game. Jason, when you watched the contest last night, we knew we would get Orlando's best shot. But did anyone expect the Cavs to roll over in the fashion they did?
I didn't. They quit.
No,
I didn't expect that.
I at least, and I said this on Twitter, at least when Orlando came to Cleveland, it was an uphill battle and they lost. But they still showed fight. They still fought.
They got it to within
Yeah.
4 and 6 in the late in the fourth quarter. No, midway through the fourth quarter in both of those games.
Yeah, and they just didn't shoot that well. They knew they were. They're offensively kind of stunted a little bit, but for the Cavs, that's just it's the reason why it's very difficult to say the Cavs are a real contender because, and I know that I always hearken to this because, when we watched in 2016, we watched those Cavs teams, right? Those Cavs team, I will give them credit for as we go back and watch LeBron and Kyrie. The teams they were supposed to beat, they beat them or swept them or moved them up out of there. There was a level of professionalism to say, okay, let's not give this team any sort of hope, any sort of good vibes, and we're gonna put y'all away. The Cavs are a better team than the Magic. The Magic can't score the basketball. It just looks like the Magic just played harder. It just looked like nobody came to really do anything. And I'll say this: we have to talk about Darius Garland. Max Strus is struggling, but he's a role guy. Darius Garland, I'm watching the game, and he has 4 points with 4 minutes left to go in the third quarter. Like, they can't win anything with him playing like this. Nothing. Like, this is role player minutes. Can you imagine if back in the day you had a game where Kyrie Irving had 5 points and LeBron is like, hold on, what are we doing here? Now, mind you, nobody else played much better, but that can't be your second best player. That just can't be. That you can that is not going to win you this series. That won't win you no series next week or next against the Celtics. And I just gotta, I'm kind of throwing things out there because it's a frustrating loss. I'll go watch the Miami Heat the way they played against the Celtics. The way that they were without Jimmy Butler and the sets that they ran, they were pinpoint accurate on what they wanted to do. The game plan was what it was. Bam Adebayo was aggressive, and we know
Game plan was shoot.
the game plan.
For Miami, it was shoot
They
threes.
hit 30 threes or 25 threes, but down the stretch, look how they execute. They just look like they got a plan, Jason. I just saw high pick and roll.
They do have a plan.
They got a plan, Jason. I ain't got one.
We need a plan.
They got a plan.
Can we get a plan? You know what Mike Tyson famously said? I think it was Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth.
Well, everybody got a plan until you hit 10 straight threes,
Yeah,
right?
and the thing that jumped out to me, I agree. I have said mostly throughout this year, and I started thinking this way last year, that close and late, Darius, he gets tight. Bad passes, doesn't get a shot off, turnovers, forcing bad shots. I think with him it could be a pressure thing. And when you go on the road in a playoff game, that is pressure. And I'm not sure, Jason, that he handles pressure well at all.
I've seen him hit some big threes at the end of games.
Not to say he hasn't hit big shots.
Yeah.
But I think more often than not, this is totally anecdotal. I haven't gone back and looked at his there are numbers available for close and late.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at his numbers close and late.
Yeah.
I'll give you 1 sec.
I don't think he's very effective at all in those situations.
Darius aside, because he has not had a good year, and we've known that. We've said that. But Mike and I said on the podcast, we said all week, the Cavs aren't playing well in this series. Orlando's playing worse. Yeah. So I'm not at all surprised that they lost last night. At the end of the show, we picked them. Bull and I picked Orlando to win the game. Now, I didn't think it was going to be 38. But also, that gets misleading because, like, JB wisely, midway through the third quarter, said, well, this isn't going well. Come on.
I know, but when it got to 20, the Cavs were still trying, and they weren't closing the gap.
No, I'm just saying he definitely threw in the towel midway through the third quarter, cleared the bench.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, because you got to play again Saturday at 1 o'clock. Like, it's a fairly quick turnaround. Like, you're right up again Saturday afternoon, and you've got a 2-0 lead. So at that point, punt the game, get the guys off their feet, and come back because you're still up 2-1. I think you're going to win Game 4.
I do too.
I think they're going to go up 3-1. And at the start of the series, I thought Cavs in 6. I still think 6, maybe 5. You know, if they win 4 and then come home and close
I thought
them out
5
in 5
early. I think 6 now.
Yeah, I mean, so if they lose 4, now we got a series. Like, if they lose Saturday, now it's on.
You know, the saying is the series doesn't start until the road team wins.
Right.
And, you know, now Cavs don't have to win on the road. That's the luxury of being the 4 over the 5.
Correct. But even if you're 2-2 coming home, now it's a pressure game.
Sure.
For everybody.
Yeah, they're going to feel a lot more pressure in Game 5.
Absolutely.
2-2 than they did in Games 1 and 2
Yeah.
when they had the edge. My takeaway was it was the dichotomy of the season.
Oh, yeah.
This
they've been
series has been a dichotomy of the season. They can move the ball around. They can find open guys. They can hit shots. They can look great. And I agree with you. They didn't look great in either games 1 or 2, but defensively, they kept Orlando from scoring.
Yeah.
So that's why they were able to go up 2-0. But then just as quickly as they look like they're world beaters and everybody's riding high, they drop a 38-point egg, and that's exactly what this season was. So what are we going to get in 4, 5, 6, and 7 if needed? Who the hell knows?
Who knows?
Watch and win. Because you can't predict what this team's going to do.
I just, you know, it's hard because, you know, one thing that, you know, they talk about all the time is you can't teach effort, right? You know what I mean? You can't, like, that's supposed to be the ticket that's the price of admission. Like,
but effort is free. Everybody can give effort.
Everybody can give. So to me, I looked at it and I said, you can look at that game, you say, Orlando's playing harder. Orlando's playing more desperate. It was as if they knew, hey, we're up 2-0 and we got home court advantage. But you don't understand. Like, stuff can switch just like that. One turned ankle, up. And God forbid Donovan Mitchell goes out the game. I don't know what's up with Max Strus. I mean, you listen, you're a vet. Like, I don't understand. You can't dribble right now. They taking the ball from you. You can't hit a 3-point shot. I don't know what's going on with him. What's the deal? What's the deal, Jason?
And played well, like him and Yang haven't played well in the series.
And they were the guys that were brought in to do one thing, and that was shoot the ball in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to, Jason, before you go, do you want to see something that's going to make you want to rip your eyeballs out?
Sure.
Steve, you take 215 full.
Mine are
this
already
is
out.
through 3 playoff games. This is the team's 7 top shooters.
That's unbelievable.
And
That's
Mobley made his
crazy.
first 2 threes, by the way. He's 1 for his last 9.
That's crazy.
George was 0 for 8 in the first 2 games, so that's improvement for him. 1 for 2.
Strus and Niang, the 2 guys you brought in here to fix your playoff shooting.
Mike, if you would have showed me these stats and we didn't know how the series had played out, I'd say they're down 2-1 or they're down 3-0.
Yeah. No, that's
Garland's their best shooter.
And that's
Who saw
wild.
that coming?
I mean, 40%'s good. That's a good.
That's
clip.
great. No,
that's
I'll
beautiful.
take that all day, every day. But you need 3 or 4 guys that are going to be hovering around the 30% mark.
Yeah, we talked about it the other day that Strus and Yang sort of flew under the radar because they were up 2-0, so you didn't really pay a lot of attention to the fact that neither one of them were shooting it
No,
well.
you're right. You're right.
But when
Mike,
you lose a game like that, now you start to
what are
notice it.
Garland's numbers close and late? Am I imagining things, or is there something there?
I mean, everyone's numbers go down in clutch situations. So NBA.com tracks clutch, which is the last 5 minutes of a game, score within 5 points.
Yeah.
As soon as it goes out of 5, it stops tracking it as clutch, comes back in. So the numbers aren't exactly perfect.
Right.
Everyone's numbers go down, but I'll give you his clutch numbers over the last 3 seasons. This year, he played in 28 games that were technically considered clutch moments.
Yeah.
In those games, he had 50 total points. He shot 13 of 45 from the floor, which is 29% from the floor. And he shot 30% from 3. Not great.
His field goal percentage was lower than his. And so that backs up one thing that I've noticed in close and late is he's forcing horrible shots, oftentimes early in the shot clock when it's not needed.
You go back to last year.
What about his turnovers? 'Cause
Yeah,
it
that's
feels like
what I
he's
was more
not taking
interested
care of the
in.
basketball in those situations either.
He has 15 assists to 10 turnovers in those clutch situations.
All right.
If you go back to last year, and I'll go back to last year and then the year before.
That kind of
just to give
backs
you
up
his
what
three.
I thought.
2 seasons ago, 36 clutch game situations according to NBA.com. He scored 60 points. He shot 34% from the floor, 24% from 3, had 22 assists and 15 turnovers, which is still too many turnovers.
Way too many turnovers.
And then back to 2021, his All-Star season, he shot 37% in 34 clutch situations. He shot 24% from 3. Here's the difference. 25 assists to 8 turnovers. That's a positive 3
Wow.
and change to 1.
What year was
assist to
that?
turnover ratio.
That was his All-Star
2021,
year.
2022.
21-22. So that was the year that was when the ball was in his hands.
In his hands.
And there
Primarily.
was no other.
So one of the things that was discussed nationally, and we talked about it here locally, when they acquired Donovan Mitchell, was is he going to stunt the growth of any of these young superstars? And I don't know that you can make a strong case that he's stunted the growth of Allen or if he's stunted the growth of Mobley. I don't think Mobley has advanced as much as we would have hoped. But I think there's a clear-cut argument to be made that Darius Garland is on a downward trajectory since Donovan Mitchell showed up.
When the Cavs acquired Donovan, they had a lot of internal metrics that showed that Darius plays well in an off-ball role. Now, there's other people that just want to put the ball in. People around Darius want Darius to have the ball in his hands, and that's it.
Right.
And let him run the offense.
That ship has sailed.
It has. I mean, with Donovan Mitchell on the roster,
I am not putting ball in his hand. Like look.
But again, his best season was when there was no other ball.
I agree with that. I mean, it's tough making those adjustments. I agree, but when you got your second best, look, you got to think about it. Just swap his name out, right? Say Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. If Jaylen Brown got 5 points in the playoff game, they'd be killing him.
yeah, no question.
They would say, "What are you doing? We can't win with that."
Do you agree with the folks in his camp that think he should be the primary ball handler?
I mean, if you look at the numbers, he had his best year when Donovan was in Utah and Colin Sexton was hurt. So now, is that just because it's his best year? Does that mean it's best for your team to win games? I don't know.
There's also a mindset that I think goes along with being the alpha and being the point.
Yeah.
And I'm just totally psychoanalyzing, and I have no credentials to do that, but that's what we do. To me, it seems when Donovan was brought in, it was a blow to his ego because Darius probably thought that this was his team and he was going to be the guy that triggered the offense. And it clearly hasn't manifested itself the way he thought. And I think, and I've been reading between the lines in some of the comments, something particular that JB said after the Game 1 win. This was big for us because all our guys knew that Darius needed to be picked up. That to me tells me that his psyche is dinged, and the team knows it, and he's playing like it is too.
Well, he's had a terrible year. Everybody knows that. And the broken jaw, and had his mouth wired shut and lost all that weight in the middle of a season. It's hard to come back from that. So, in terms of I just go back to what the numbers say. The numbers say he had his best year when the ball was in his hands and there was no other dominant.
Were the Cavs better, though?
It's hard to say because
I don't think so.
Well, they were so young and they were just starting to trend upward. Then,
Right.
It's impossible to say had they left that trajectory alone.
Okay, so if you
where they
could
would be.
push a go back button, would you prefer that the Cavs were built that way without Donovan?
Well, here's the thing: Donovan is an upgrade over Colin Sexton, right?
Well, undeniably.
Right. So they had to figure out the Collins situation. They didn't want to pay him all that money. For a while, I thought they were going to. But then when Mobley came along and that sort of became the plan of it's got to be Mobley, they pivoted off of Collin. They didn't extend him, sort of the same situation Okoro's in now where they didn't extend him coming off his rookie deal. And they had to figure that out. Utah was willing to pay him. So they bundle all these picks. They make the Donovan trade, and they upgrade at that spot for sure. It cost Markkanen and a ton of picks, but they upgraded that 2 spot. But it put Darius back in the same position of having to play alongside another dominant ball handler. So now you have 2 of them out there, which in theory should be good. Like
you would think.
It should be good. Not everyone can play that way, though. Some guys, Darius, I'm sure his whole life has played with the ball in his hands. He's a point guard. So he's always been the one initiating. And so it's an adjustment. And some guys do it better than others. And again, I had people at the Cavs telling me when Colin was here, when they made the trade for Donovan, that their metrics show that Darius is fine in an off-ball role. Like he can thrive without the ball in his hands at times. Clearly, he hasn't thrived in any role this year. And it's hard entirely to put your finger on. But just because what's best for him isn't necessarily what's best for the team, just because it's best for him to be the ball dominant guy.
That's why.
And I don't know if there is a clear answer to that.
Well, that's why I asked a question of your statement. I think, the metrics do show that he was best when he was the primary ball handler before Donovan got here. But then I think the question that the Cavaliers front office has to ask is this the best version of the Cavaliers?
Right.
Having clearly psychologically he's dinged. And I do think I'm glad you brought up the injury because I think that Mikey said this earlier, and I had somebody else that covered basketball for a long time tell me, don't sleep on that injury that he had. Because of the weight loss and because of just he's going to get fatigued easier when he comes back, and he hasn't been the same guy. Now, I don't know if we can blame the entire season on the jaw, but clearly it's affected his play, and they're not the same.
When you watch, and I'm always watching the playoffs, you watch the way that people ratchet up their game.
Yeah.
These guys, whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Denver Nuggets, Celtics, Heat, there's a marked difference in the way that they play, and I'm a little, I guess I'm apprehensive. I'm a little scared because it's like, okay, when are we going to get, they're going to need your second player to be a 20-plus point guy in the playoffs. You got to be having 20. That's bare minimum, right, for you to be successful. So if the Cavs are saying, hey, we feel like we're in that top 4, we're not that place where we can win a championship, you just can't have your second best player not knowing what you're going to get from them, because guess what? You're not going to get anything from the role guys. Niang and Strus.
Well, you haven't so far.
Especially on the road, you can't count on that on the road. No. What you should be able to count on and hang your hat on is, I got my 2 guys, my all-stars, my dudes that are going to play. If it's Milwaukee, I know I need Dame and Giannis. They got to show up. Whether if it's LeBron and KD, if it's Paul George and Harden or Kawhi Leonard, you need them to show up. For us, it's NBA jams. On that screen, it's Donovan and Darius.
You know what the difference is in the guys that you're talking about? And go through those other teams that you mentioned. Milwaukee, Giannis, big wing, big size. Right. Yeah. LA, LeBron, big size, big wing. Phoenix, KD, big size, big wing.
Booker,
talking about two small
You're talking
players.
about 2 little guards.
Right. And we've chronicled, and it's been discussed about how difficult it is to win a championship with your best player being a guard, being a smaller, undersized player. And it's happened really in 2 different eras.
And that's why they really needed Mobley to be that guy, to emerge as that guy. And to this point, he had a great, I don't want to make it sound like he had a bad year. He didn't. Evan Mobley had a great year, but that 3-point piece is what's missing.
See, I have a hard time going to great.
Oh, I think he did. I think he had a great year.
Because here's, to me, for it to be a great year, he would have had to have added something to his game. Whether that's more dominance in the low post or it's the 3-point threat. And to me, it was a status quo year for him. He looked a lot this year like he did last year to me. Mike, am I wrong?
The numbers look the same. The way he scored looked different.
In what way? In what way?
You have way more confidence in him if he catches the ball with his back to the basket now. It is not to the level where the Cavs need it to be. And the whole Evan Mobley discourse drives me crazy because there has been progression. The question is,
it enough
has
for
there
you?
been enough progression?
Yeah, has there been enough for you?
It hasn't been enough to get the Cavs to the point they needed to be in year 2 of the Donovan Mitchell experience.
No, that's fair.
It is progression. And he is on a linear path towards becoming a very solid, competent player in this league. Which,
I think he already is a
argue,
very solid, competent player.
Well, he is.
I'm not, I don't want
that's not the right
to
word.
diminish what he's done. I just don't know. For me, to say someone's had a great year,
yeah, I don't know
especially
if I go
this young in his career, I have to see some sort of ascension,
so
some sort of progression.
But he's so good defensively. That's
But
the
see, he
component.
always was.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so
but
I
you
give
can't
him
ding him for that.
No, I don't ding him for that. But I want to, for me to take him to solid, competent player to great, I just think he has to have added an element to his game that he hasn't.
I see where Jay coming from. I see what you're getting at. For me, what I look for is a guy like this, Bam Adebayo. Bam didn't come into this league with no offensive game, but then you started to see last year in the finals, well, Bam is running point center. What the heck is this? Then this year, you go watch the game a couple days ago against the Celtics. Bam's getting the ball anywhere inside that foul line down, he's automatic. He going to the hook. He's going to the teardrop. I'm like, when did Bam Adebayo get this type of game? But he didn't have that. But guess what? Progressively, they started using him. He started adding some more stuff.
Is that where coaching comes in, Jay? Where those specific moves?
Some of it's coaching, some of it's just player development. Some guys are more equipped, some guys figure it out, and some
How old
guys
is
don't.
he, too? Mobley, what is he, 22?
Mobley, yeah.
Bam took his big jump in year 4, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and everybody grows at different rates. Everybody grows at different rates.
Right.
Some guys, make that big jump in year 1. They're in a transition, you don't even see a drop off. Some of them 2, 3. But I'm at the point with him where I want to see this unicorn.
Sure.
I want to see it. I know the Cavs want to see it. And if they do, I think you take this team to another level.
I thought the 3-point shot would be here by now for him. I thought it would come, and it
And we
didn't,
had moments.
and that's disappointing. Oh yeah, there
we
are
had
moments.
moments.
But it's always harder in the playoffs, always.
Yeah.
And
defense is tighter.
And it's just the pressure of the moment, the towels in the air, and it's a different environment in the postseason.
Mike made a good point. He made his first 2, right?
He was 2 for 2. He's 1 for 9 since.
Yeah.
Listen, I still got them. I still got them. They can come out, win game 3, and they'll finish them off at home. You may win in 5. To me, I'm going to do my major evaluations of how they play against the Celtics. I think the Celtics will win that series.
Or the Heat.
Well, listen, the Heat.
The Heat now have home court advantage in that series.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, the Heat are, and by the way, the Cavs did. Hey, listen, shout out to the Cavs for doing the right thing and taking like they were supposed to, because y'all wasn't gonna get smoked by these dudes. They was not going down there to beat the Celtics. The Heat, the Sixers, and the Knicks. No, I don't want no parts of them series. They got their cupcake off. They'll get their little series win, and then I can figure out what they're about. But the Heat is. Boy, I got respect for their system, bro. It don't even matter who they put out there, dog.
You touched on it earlier when you said they had a plan.
They got all kind of plans.
They've got, I don't know if it's the best brain trust in the NBA, because they've got something going on in San Antonio and have for decades.
It's the best.
But I think with Riley and Spoelstra, and the way Spoelstra soaked it all up when he was the student, and now if you're a Miami fan, you're like, okay, eventually there's going to be a complete passing of the baton where Pat Riley's not there. But the way they are set up, the way the GM and the coach work hand in hand, it's a model. It really is a model.
It might be, I was going to say it might be the best run team in professional sports.
Ooh, interesting.
But it's top 3 to 5.
It gotta be.
For sure, in all sports.
They
I don't
was
know
number
hockey.
8 last year, Jason, and they beat them. They won a Game 7 in the Garden.
And that goes to show you that coaching can make a difference.
Oh, in the playoffs, coaching 1,000% makes it. I'm looking up Pat's age.
He's got to be 80.
79.
All right.
He just turned 79 in
He
March.
might be Dracula. He ain't aged.
And I'll tell you what.
Somebody want to.
His hair kind of resembles if he had the widow's peak.
Right.
He's 79, and I mean, obviously, I'm not around him, but I had to talk to him last year for a story on Kareem, and he was sharp as a tack.
Really?
In terms of vivid recall of certain events from 30, 40 years ago. Like, it was it was fascinating talking to him about, because we had a great conversation about LeBron and when LeBron left and came back, and the gist of it was Kareem, but it evolved into
This is way off topic, but how did the temperature of the conversation change when you brought up LeBron?
It was fine because he's gotten over it.
But there was a point where he was more than bitter.
He said it took him time. He was angry. He was really angry when LeBron came back. He couldn't believe it. He knew eventually, he said that's home. He had to fix home. He knew when he came to Miami, he was going to have to leave someday to go back and make things right. He just didn't think it was going to be that fast.
Yeah.
These Heat culture, bro, I tell you, listen, they don't even let they assistant coaches be fat. Everybody on the treadmill at the Heat culture, everybody running.
That's a fact.
Well, you know what's funny?
Mike knows about that.
Mike knows this. Like, a lot of time, people don't leave the office until Pat leaves. And then when Pat leaves, Spo's out like 5 minutes later. But
that's funny.
But you don't leave. At least that's how it was a few years ago.
That's funny.
They still got it like that.
You don't leave until Pat leaves, and then when Pat left,
that is
when Spo
that
would
is
leave.
so miserable.
And he's driving home. He's driving home in his Bentley, and he's got a live camera feed. So he's going, okay. Yeah. It took Spo 3 minutes to go.
Hey, I need to see.
These guys know what's going on.
Hey, what you doing right now?
One more thing on the game that we didn't touch on, I do think we have to touch on. The first quarter in particular yesterday, the Cavs got absolutely demolished on the glass.
Manhandled on
which
the
is what
offensive
led
rebounding
to Orlando's three-point explosion early. In the first quarter alone, well, let's go big picture. The Cavs won the rebounding battle in the first 2 games. That was something we said they had to win. Last night, they lost by 19. In the first quarter alone, Orlando, who started the game 0 for 8 from the floor, they missed their first 5 threes. It looked like another brick fest. Well, it led to some long offensive rebounds, which led to some open kickouts, which is how Orlando got their 3-point barrage going. It's not just on Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley to rebound. It's a entire team effort.
Right.
And
Especially
on
when
long
you're
rebounds,
missing threes.
Yeah, on long rebounds, it's especially on the guards. Darius, Donovan, Max, and Max has done a good job rebounding up until last night. It was an unacceptable effort on the boards, which led to those second chance points. Once they made a few threes and the home crowd got into it, the floodgates opened. But at the end of the day, Orlando made 13 threes. It took 37. They shot their exact season percentage from 3.
Right.
It just felt
Which
like
is still
way
below
more.
average.
Yeah, it just felt like way more because of the timing of them. And one thing that's killed the Cavs, they have now played 8 playoff games over the last 2 seasons. 8 real playoff games with J.B. Bickerstaff. They've scored over 100 points in one of those 8. Yeah. This is not just an issue this series. The offense has struggled in the postseason going back to last series.
Yep.
And you could blame part of it on coaching. Also, the Cavs just aren't making shots. This is from Game 3 last night. On open threes, which NBA.com tracks between 4 and 6 space between the shot and the closest defender. They were 5 of 15, 33%. On wide open threes. Wide open threes.
Yeah.
More than 6 feet between the shooter and the defender. They were 2 of 14. You can't win if you're missing open shots. That's not on coaching. That's a player issue. And for the series, the corner 3 is what you draw up shots for. You draw up plays to get corner 3s. It's the easiest shot in basketball. Through 3 games, the Cavs are 4 for 21 on corner 3s. The Cavs have to make shots. Coaching has not been perfect.
I got a question
but the
for
Cavs
you.
have to make shots.
But to that point, 2 of 14 on open threes.
Putrid.
What?
Putrid.
Yeah, but you said, that's not on coaching. That's on the players. Watch this. Give them 12 of 14 on open threes. They still lose by 8.
Well, no, because you can't do that because the entire second half would have been different. You're not going to pull these guys midway through the third.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I think what happened last night in the series, as I turned it off and tried not to think about it anymore, I still was thinking, okay, what was the difference? To me, I noticed right away the offensive rebound. Orlando made it a point that we're going to get rebounds. That's what we're going to do. And just like Miami made it a point, Spo said after the Game 1 loss, we didn't shoot enough threes. We're going to shoot. I think he's, obviously he was just, it was a hyperbole.
They made 23 threes.
He said, we're going to shoot 50 threes. So they recognize, Miami, what one element must we fix? Because if you try to fix everything at once, all the balls are going to fall to the ground. And I thought Orlando smartly said, well, one thing, we're getting our ass kicked on, and we won't win the series, a game in the series, if we don't change it immediately, is the rebounding. And that was their point of emphasis, and they didn't shoot the ball lights out. But like you said, it did seem like they were shooting at a better percentage because of when they were hitting them. But also the reason it didn't seem as punitive is because they were getting second shots after missed threes.
And I'm not saying JB doesn't deserve any of the blame. I'm just saying instead of pointing the finger directly at coaching in this instance, they got good looks last night. They just couldn't buy a bucket. And
I know.
like
that happens.
You ain't going to beat anybody. But the big picture, eclipsing the 100-point mark in 1 of 8 playoff games.
That's stunning to me.
That is not good enough.
I didn't notice that. I didn't know that was fast.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I get that you say they're missing shots, but when their big thing last year was, hey, we don't got the roster. We need to shoot threes. We don't got the roster. We need to take open threes and knock down these shots. Right? They go out and they go get the guys to shoot the threes. I can't keep having that same excuse.
They're 6 and 7 on the.
That's exactly
on the
it.
Gee, I'm not excusing JB. Like, trust me, this is not an excuse. I'm just making the big point picture of, yes, they got out coached last night, but they also have to make shots. And missing shots isn't necessarily a coaching if you're getting good looks.
If it was a bus, it wasn't like one wheel fell off.
They all fell
all
off.
All four fell off at the same time.
And you know, sometimes it's about getting guys easy baskets. Like, I know you want to come out and fire these threes, but get you a layup. Get you a clean look. Get to the free throw line. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, have to automatically be, if I don't hit my threes, it's a wrap. I think there's a couple people playing with, you look at this list right here. You got Garland playing with no confidence. Strus playing with no confidence. I'll give the minivan some, he always thinks he's hot. Like, he just, that's the minivan mentality.
He shouldn't play on Saturday.
Yeah, but some of these, Strus, maybe you got to go with LeVert in the starting lineup. Maybe you got to figure something out. But right now, he's playing with no confidence.
What was most stunning to me was when the Cavs were up 21-18, and there was a timeout, and instantly Orlando comes out of that timeout on a 13-0 run. That was the game. At that point, the game was over.
Donovan Mitchell came out at the first quarter. It was 24-21. When he came back 6 minutes later, they were down 12, and they never cut it within single digits. That was it. They can't sink as soon as Donovan comes out.
And to this point of, well, Garland is better when Donovan Mitchell isn't on the floor, that didn't prove true last night. He had an opportunity with Donovan Mitchell resting for it to be his team, for him to make a difference.
I mean, he had opportunities all year when Donovan was out, and it just hasn't been a good year.
No, it hasn't been a good year at all. All right, they're going to win Game 4, and all this is going to be a distant memory.
And we'll break down and make our pick for Game 4 specifically on the TV show coming up on WKYC at 12:30.
All right.
We're going to skip the Karis LeVert top. We're going to go right to the NFL draft, guys, because that is a little more pressing. And we know that everyone who was selected in the first round last night of the NFL draft, well, they're competitive people, and they all allegedly have downloaded Monopoly Go, just like the other 150 million people across the country. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big-time money. The best part? They can mess with their friends. They can charge them rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, and they can also rob their friends' vaults for riches for themselves. The leaderboards show you who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. It's not just their competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get it on the game. Join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. Andrew Berry and the Browns are on the clock today. They're slated to pick with the 54th overall selection in the NFL Draft. We'll talk about who we want specifically player-wise coming up on the WKYC show. But for now, and Jay, we'll start with you, then we'll go G, and then we'll go to Jason.
Okay.
What is your confidence that Andrew Berry will nail this pick?
You want me to give my confidence and then the player all at once?
No, save the player
save it for
the
later.
TV. I just want your confidence.
Okay. I'm a 6. I'm a solid 6 on the confidence meter. And here's why I'm not higher. I still think it's going to be a wide receiver. And for some reason, what this current regime has done to analyze wide receivers has been an abject fail, a 100% fail rate. Give me the name of the guy outside of Coop. Give me the name of the guy who they put a price tag on and had a certain evaluation book on and that player has lived up to or exceeded what they had hoped he would be.
At receiver?
Yeah.
Oh, but it's not existent at receiver.
And that's why I'm saying I'm a 6. I do think they're going to go receiver. I do. And in part because I still think it's the area of greatest need. Because a lot of these guys that they've taken, either via draft or trades or whatever, have not been the players that we expected them to be. So, if suddenly you can say, well, yeah, Bell's going to be the guy that we thought was going to be a third-round draft pick, or Elijah Moore is going to be this freak that everyone thought he was going to be, then maybe you could convince yourself to go to another area. But I'm subscribing to G's theory of Operation Stockpile.
There you go.
They did it last year on the defensive front. To me, the position of wide receiver is as great a need as defensive front was for them 2 years ago. They've got one really, really good player, and everybody else is just a bunch of dudes, just a bunch of guys that are going to catch passes out of just because they're in the lineup. But they don't have a second star. I'm not sure that the guy they went out and paid from Denver is going to be that guy. So take a wide receiver. But unless they've changed the way they're evaluating draft wide receivers, I have a very low confidence that this one's going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, listen, I got to go 8.5. And the reason I'm going to go 8.5 is way too many guys left. It's way too many named guys on the board. And by the way, guys, if you have heard about the guys, that's not a bad thing. I think nowadays we feel like if you have a name, you're going after just names. No, like they have a name because they actually did well in the college.
There's a reason. Yeah.
There's a reason to have a name. Like no one
or the combine.
Or they've been balling and done both, and they got some sort of backing behind them. So to me, if you're looking at it, I want a receiver, right? And we've been talking about it. All the receivers is left on the board. Lad McConkey, Keon Coleman, Jalen Polk is still there. Troy Franklin is still. Brendan Rice, your guy, is still there. Roman Wilson, a Michigan guy. I know people won't like that. But you got Malachi Corey still there on the board. There's all kind of guys.
I'm surprised
Burton.
Coleman's still available, to be perfectly honest.
Listen, everybody wanted a quarterback yesterday. So,
it is crazy.
And by the way, on Keon Coleman, according to PFF's Day 2 mock draft, he falls to the Browns at 54.
Really?
According to the 33rd team's mock draft, he's the very first pick in the second round at 33.
So when I looked at the available player list this morning, I thought, well, he's gone. I'm not even going to think about Coleman. I'd be stunned if he lasted 5 picks into the second round.
That's why people is chilling. That's why people want to get up at that 33rd pick.
So let's just say he slips 4, and he's available with the 5th pick in the second round. Jason, please tell me at that point Cleveland's scurrying to put a package together to move up to get that pick.
If that's who they want, yeah. I do think that this could be the year. We talked about it at the Open. I think this could be the year that they are aggressive and go up just because of the lack of spots on the 53. But I'm not convinced that they have to take a receiver.
I know you're not.
At this spot.
No.
Like, you have a first-round pick next year. Do it next year.
See, I can't even talk next year. I can't get those words out of my mouth.
But here's the thing.
Because the window is closing.
But you have this quarterback who's supposed to be great. You have enough weapons for him. I know Operation Stockpile, there's only so many receivers you can carry on the roster.
I don't count David Bell as a receiver.
What do you count him as?
A Minimowski.
I don't think he's going to be on the roster.
I can't count him. I can't.
I mean, if he's on the roster, I think the Browns are still in trouble.
It's one or the other. Either you have this quarterback you believe in because he makes everybody around him better, because that's what franchise quarterbacks do.
But I haven't seen that out of him yet.
But is this second-round guy really going to be the one piece that puts it over the top? I think that there's – I'm just not convinced they have to go the receiver
So what position – okay, if not wide receiver, then where are they going? Where do they need to go?
Well, I don't want to give away Mike's whole plan, but I think I would be fine if they take a running back. I think running back is a more pressing need than receiver because we just don't know.
Now, you know what?
I'm just going to bet on Nick Chubb.
You know what? I'm glad you just said that, because Operation Stockpile is of the thought process that running back could be a mix too.
I mean,
listen.
There's more question marks and possibly need at running back than there is at receiver.
And Foreman is not that.
All indications are we're going to be a 70-30 offense.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that there's running backs out there that fit with where they're going. with what they want to do.
No, but if you're all in on the pass,
And the beauty
then
of where
build
they're
up the pass assets.
and the beauty of where this roster is at is I truly believe that they can go best available. There's not many years where I believe that to be the case.
No, yeah, and there's some teams that can't do that.
Yeah, I believe that's true. And if there's one guy that on their best available board is in the 20s and he's still there at 45, 48, yeah, hit the gas.
Make
the move. It doesn't matter what the position is. Just go.
Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, love him. Trey Benson out of Florida State, love him a lot. And here's a guy I wouldn't mind having a Browns jersey. Don't hate me. Listen, I shout out to the Buckeyes. Blake Corum.
Yeah.
I like Blake Corum.
Well, the two guys you mentioned from Texas and Florida State my guess would be there's not going to be a running back go in the top 53 picks.
Well,
so you're probably going to have your pick of guys.
Was there one taken yesterday? There was.
No,
there wasn't.
No.
So the best running back is available.
That's why
Mel Kiper has talked it into reality.
Well, no, that's why when we get to the TV show, you'll see if you have the pick of who you want at that spot, I think it makes a lot of sense to go running back.
All right.
So, Jason, how confident are you, regardless of position, that Barry's going to nail this pick?
I actually have the exact same as G, 8.5.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
You guys look at things in completely different perspectives.
Yeah. I say 8.5 because I have faith. I'm not discounting receiver, but I'm not basing the whole thing on receiver because I'm not convinced they have to go receiver route. But I do like their process of how they've drafted. I think that they've gotten better every year. And I've said it 100 times on the show, the longer you do something, the better you get at it. You make mistakes in your first year, even your second year, you learn from them. They haven't learned all their lessons at receiver, clearly. But I think you have a first-round pick next year. That's when Amari, you probably may have to make the decision, move on from him, Elijah Moore, whatever. You're tied to Judy, obviously. But the first-round receivers seem to be doing very well these last few years. I think you could wait another year on receiver and then go get a top guy next year in the first round. But for now, I have full faith in this front office picking the right guy regardless of what it is because there's not a glaring need.
Let's go
because
back the
they
last
can
three.
go by their board.
Go back the last three drafts, the first player that the Browns selected, and give them grades. I mean, I know the further away you get, the more accurate that grade's going to be, and some are going to be incomplete.
Was it Tillman last year?
Tillman was the first player selected last year, and I can't give them more than a C-.
Was that the third round?
Third round,
Yeah.
but I think he had a second-round grade. He
Yeah,
slipped
but
because
still,
of the injury.
it's the third. So last year
and
was Tillman
receivers,
in
by the
third.
way, can have an immediate impact.
Sure, yeah,
And
they
he
can.
did not.
But usually, I think guys third round, fourth round. Nakua is the exception. I think those guys take a little bit longer for them to make. I don't know how many third, fourth, fifth round receivers are making an impact on day one. I can't think of many.
Well, yeah, Nakua is the outlier, and he was in the sixth round.
That's why I be all about moving up. We don't know.
Okay, so what would we give the Tillman grade?
C.
Probably close to an incomplete, but you can't give him better than a C.
C. No, C.
Okay.
C minus.
And year before
I'm a
was
C minus,
year
too.
before was Emerson in the fourth round, right?
Now,
A.
that's
Emerson
a hit.
third
Hey,
round.
Third round.
That-
Okay,
that's a hit.
That's an A
And
plus.
That's an A plus.
That cover up for a lot of stuff. DeJuan Jones, that cover up for a lot of
Well,
stuff.
DeJuan
Four.
was-
That's
DeJuan
a
was
four.
later.
That's a fourth round, right?
Yeah.
No, he just wants to do first.
Yeah,
picks.
I'm just going
Oh, okay.
first pick.
So
Yeah.
Tillman, Emerson, and then who was 3 years ago?
Greg Newsome was 2021.
I think that's a B.
Yeah, I say B.
Yeah.
He starts for you, right? He
Yeah,
starts for you.
I'm with you guys.
Bull would probably give it a D minus.
Bull was so out of pocket the other day on that.
Bull was
he
adamant
was
he's
so
not a
wrong
first
on
round
that.
pick.
What was he saying about
He's not a first round pick. He's not a first round talent. History has proven he's not a first round talent, and the rest of us disagreed with
Hey,
him.
hey, listen,
Yeah,
man.
I would
Hey,
tend
hey,
to disagree with that too, but I don't think he's a slam dunk
We should
first round talent.
I think we should do this. I don't know, McNuggets. We should go back and rewatch every game, right? Because I just, sometimes you be forgetting. People forget that Greg Newsome low-key won the Ravens game with a pick six.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Let's not act like he didn't have a whole pick six. Like,
Yeah, that's why I could never say he would be.
Like-
If you're going to classify first rounders as bust
Yeah,
or
like-
boom, I mean, he's definitely not a bust.
No.
He's a hit.
And-
It's
and-
not
I
a big
think-
hit, but it's a single.
and just because Martin Emerson we perceive is better than him does not mean he's garbage. Like, he's like, and think about it. He may be playing out of position in his mind. He like, I play slot. I done learn a whole new position.
Yeah.
And I'm playing out of position.
Well, in his mind, he is playing out of position.
Yeah, like his mind, he like, like he might be better outside. Who knows? He's not gonna get that chance here, but
I was thinking about this morning driving in. I might write about this next week, but the three years the Browns didn't have first-round picks, they actually survived those years better than I thought that they
because
did.
because they overachieved with some of those picks.
Like, think about it.
But the Tillman, I can't put in there. But you're right.
I would like to go back and look how many teams did not have a first-round pick for 3 consecutive years.
The Rams.
Yes,
Rams
great
did it.
call. They've had
and look what they've done.
Yeah, and they've survived. They won a
hit
Super Bowl.
Grand Slam home run in the 6th round.
But
two of them.
Yeah, but I would bet there's probably not that many teams in the first place that didn't have a first-round pick 3 years in a row.
No, it's rare that you do that.
So what does that say? Does that say that that first-round picks are overvalued, or does it say that these are just high competent front offices that can overcome obstacles? I don't know. Like, I'm not throwing the theory
You know what?
out.
I think that would be a good deep dive, though, Jay.
I
think you should write about that.
It's just
I'd
interesting
read
to
every
me.
word of it. I think that concept is fascinating because I do think it puts an onus on your front office. When you trade those picks away, you can't miss.
Yeah.
You've
got to
to
find
hit.
hits somewhere in that
Somewhere
draft.
in there. There've got to be Emerson's.
Yeah.
There's got to be DeJuan Jones.
And on top of that, think about it. The guy that they traded all those first-round picks for has played 11 times.
Yeah.
So, like, you
really is a recipe for disaster.
You really had to have something.
If I'd have told you the day of that trade, you're not going to have a first-round pick for 3 years, and by the way, Deshaun's only going to play 11 games, or whatever. Is it really 11? Is that all it is? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is it
11?
I think it's technically 12 because he played.
Yeah, but
he
he
played-
started the
he
Colts.
played-
Colts game.
okay.
I don't
All right.
count that.
Yeah.
He
But-
played
So then
one
11.
series.
But
and
imagine
threw a pick.
going back to the day of the trade and saying they're not going to have a first-round pick for 3 years, and Deshaun's only going to play 11-plus games over those. Over the
I would
years.
show you a team that's going to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. And in my mind, the only reason they made the playoffs last year is due to the guy that finally stepped up at quarterback who's no longer here.
And you say, well, by the way, Nick Chubb's going to miss a whole year.
Oh,
Yeah.
recipe for disaster.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
no, it is.
And I think
It is.
that's where I think my 8.5 comes from is I have full faith in this coaching staff and this front office. And I don't know that I've ever said that about the Browns in 25 years.
No, clip that, put that in the time capsule. That is the first. I have faith in, I don't have full faith. Because they still have given you're putting together their greatest hits commercial. You remember when in the old days when they would sell music and CDs on commercials and they would show all the hits?
Oh, yeah.
They would say, buy Journey's greatest hits. Songs like Don't Stop Believing. They never put the trash picks in that commercial?
Yeah.
Monster
So
ballads.
if you just miss the hits, you're like, damn, they're full faith. But you also have to throw in David Bell,
Absolutely.
Anthony Schwartz,
Yes.
Cedric Tillman,
Yes.
and many others.
Well, but every front office has misses. Every one of them.
right.
But their hits, I don't know. I just have faith. And maybe, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's a completely different conversation. Right now, I like where they're headed.
A good piece leading up to draft day, because there's no interest at all in the Browns, would have been this regime's overall draft picks, grade each class and grade them overall.
Yeah.
I would have been interested
on
to see
that
something
on
like
that CD you talk about, Journey, Whitesnake, and Winger on all of them.
Yeah. And remember they say order by midnight tonight.
order by midnight tonight.
What happens at like 12:01? I can't buy it?
No.
Order in the next 45 minutes, and we'll give you.
And
that commercial runs
Against
every
tonight.
day.
And then that commercial was.
They're on Channel 43 all day long.
That boy was immediately followed by the Tommy Mansky back-to-back AAU national champions.
Fred McGriff with the Who Farted hat. This is the videotape that gets results.
That boy, they had
a big blue Who Farted hat.
They had a limited budget back then. That tape was seen all around the world.
Tom Amansky's video. Oh, that was great.
Yep.
90% of our audience right now is going, who?
No clue.
Who is
When
Tom
that,
Amansky?
when that,
Who's Fred McGriff?
when that kid threw that ball and threw that ball and hit that little white
In the basket.
basket, I was like,
I got to get that tape. Tom Amansky's put me in the big leagues.
Speaking of the draft, we will get videos up on our YouTube channel after every pick that the Browns make and give you a little background, little context into who they are. So make sure you guys, if you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe button so you guys get that immediate content as soon as we put it up. We're going to talk big picture NFL draft stuff from the first round in one sec, but a quick reminder that it is playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs and slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Kirk Cousins thought he was Atlanta's #1 quarterback until the 8th pick of the draft came around last night. And Atlanta selected Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick.
8th? I thought it was 9.
No, the Bears took Rome Odunze 9th.
Yeah.
Penix was 8th. Not that it makes a difference.
Jason doesn't like the pick anymore.
Now I hate it now.
You guys started to get into it early.
We've got to start with Jason because he said he didn't hate the pick.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jason, I'm surprised.
By the way, this is the organization that said we're good to Bill Belichick.
If I'm Kirk Cousins, I hate the pick. He has every reason to be pissed.
He better hate it.
Because he just signed on for $100 million, and I'm sure he thought he was going to get a weapon or they were going to give something to help him at that spot. But if you're the Falcons, that is actually really funny. But it's not like the owner didn't know what they were going to do. But if you're the Falcons, Kirk Cousins is a Band-Aid. He's not a solution. He's a 1 or 2 year issue. And the hope is you're not drafting in the top 10 if Kirk Cousins is your quarterback. This is your last chance. Now, I don't love the pick of Penix, but you have to trust your scouting department. Like, you have these guys in position for a reason. And if your GM is saying this is the guy we want, but the idea of taking a quarterback, I don't hate there because this is probably, if you do this right, this is your last chance drafting in the top 10. And how much longer does Kirk Cousins have? So you don't want to be
35.
Yeah, you don't. That's what I'm saying. You don't want to be in the position of you're at 23, 24 in a year or two, and you're trying to trade up. You know how expensive that is to get up in the top 10 to get your guy. So I'm not saying like I predicted before the draft. I found like no one saw it coming.
Nobody.
But I don't hate it because this is theoretically this should be your last time in the top 10, and this is your last chance to get a franchise-type quarterback because Cousins is probably only going to be there now he's probably going to be there a year. But even at the best-case scenario, how long does he really have left?
Dang, bro. Like,
You just signed him to a 4-year, $180 million deal.
That doesn't
guaranteed
mean
$100
million of it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And if he's there a year,
That's what-
$100 million for a bridge quarterback.
I would love to. Oh, I know.
Go
I
get
know.
Joe Flacco for $7 million.
Look, the owner was sitting there. He looking like, listen, I know I got a bunch
that
of
video's priceless.
I got a bunch of
hysterical.
Arthur Blank is literally looking at him like
what?
if I wasn't on camera right now, I would be firing you.
Well, but he had to know. You don't make that
You know
pick
what, though?
without
I
telling
thought the
the
same
owner.
thing. I did. I swear I thought, well, Blank had to be in on that. But that conversation, that tweet is 10,000% right. That posturing with Blank, both hands in his pockets,
he's pissed.
not saying a word, and the way Finals going. That's what, you know
Carry
what?
the one.
That's what I looked like when I got home at 12:30 with the 12 o'clock curfew. Mom, I ran out of gas. The gas station that I went to was closed. I had to push my car to another gas station, and my mom had her hands in her pockets.
What NFL owner does not know what you're doing with the top 10 pick?
But
it doesn't exist.
That
It
look,
does.
Though, like
Yes.
that's
looks
exactly what he's saying.
It does, but I can't believe
And
that
Arthur
it is.
Blank is involved,
Very much so.
but he's also been notorious for with Rich McKay to say, look, I hired you for a reason.
Yes.
You do what
Yes.
you do.
But it's not like Arthur Blank was laying in bed
I can't-
and the Falcons said,
No.
Michael Penix, and he threw his suit on.
Honey,
went
get my
racing-
red jacket. I'm hot.
and went racing down to the facility. Like, he knew.
I would love to hear. I would really. You'd have to have been a fly on the wall, because Arthur Blank is he's gonna put on a face of complete. We were in lockstep with one another.
Well, he's not even going to talk again probably until the owners' meetings next March. It'll be a non-story.
And by then he'll cool down.
Yeah.
But that video, that tweet was very funny.
It was hysterical.
I mean, they got they got Pitts, they got London,
They've got pieces.
they got the running back, old boy from
Bijan Robinson.
They got some pieces and parts, but Jay, listen, his conservative. Listen, hey, you got it on this one. I'm Project Stockpile. I stockpile everything: quarterbacks, Big Macs, all kind of everything. We be stockpiling, but this is crazy.
I think what he was saying,
he could have got $6 million. He could have got a bridge guy, Jay.
Here's
It's
what I would want
$100 million.
explained to me if I'm the owner.
That's fair.
I'm okay with this move in a vacuum without Kirk Cousins. I'm okay with each of these moves alone. But together, you have to explain to me why I'm going to give this dude $100 million. And now, in the Packers case, I think the Packers are a really interesting study through the years. When Brett was not at the end of the rope, still had 4 or 5 years left, they went and drafted Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. When Aaron Rodgers was still early in his career, they drafted Jordan Love.
He wasn't early in his career.
But they took another quarterback between Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. They drafted
not in the first round, though.
No, not in the first round, but they
Flynn.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think, and the way it's worked out for Green Bay is they have remained at the top of the talent cycle. Yeah. When have the Packers had a 6 and 10?
Yeah, but here's the issue with the Packers, and this is my beef with, not beef, but this is why I just think that pick doesn't make a ton of sense. I understand the premise of what Jason's saying. I do get the fact you're probably not going to be picking the top 10. You're also giving Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed, 180 over 4. You can get out of it after 2 years, but his dead cap hit in 2026, year 3, if you want to get rid of him,
you're going to pay him.
Is $25 million on the dead cap. The most valuable part of the rookie quarterback is the rookie quarterback contract.
Dang.
Look at what Houston's doing. Look at what Chicago's now doing with Caleb Williams.
And that time's out, Mike.
And it doesn't make sense to me to have a quarterback who, even if you decide to move on from, you'll be paying $25 million to, which negates the fact your quarterback's
for that 1
making
year,
nothing.
But you still have your rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. So let me just throw something out that this was the closest thing that I could think of when this happened. When the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes, nobody knew he was going to be Patrick Mahomes, but let's face it, this guy had a Michael Penix-type career. He had a very, very good college career. I think the Chiefs' thinking at the time was, we're going to let him incubate for a couple of years, and we're going to see where this thing, how far we can go with this, where this ends up taking us. They had a quarterback at the time. Now, they weren't paying him $100 million guaranteed, but they had a quarterback that was making a ton of money. It worked out brilliantly for Kansas City. All of this is forgotten if Michael Penix becomes Aaron Rodgers or he becomes Patrick Mahomes, and ultimately Arthur Blank will tap his GM on the shoulder and say, job well done. However, if it doesn't work out that way, he will open the door for his GM and say, don't let it hit you in the ass.
Absolutely.
So it's a big risk for this GM.
They could have had a doomsday. Can you imagine London and a doomsday? And listen, these guys, they could have Pitts. I mean, when you're Kirk Cousins, you're sitting there, I got the second best receiver on the board about to fall to me. Right here, because the Bears drafted him right after they were on the clock.
Third best, because Neighbors and Harrison were good.
Okay, right. So you got one of the top 3 receivers on the board ready to go.
But you still have a 35-year-old quarterback.
And you're licking your chops like, let's go.
Jay, you kind of talked me into it. I don't hate it as much as I did last night.
The difference between Alex Smith and Kirk Cousins, though, is the Chiefs owed Alex Smith $10 million. The Falcons
I know, but
Kirk Cousins $100 million.
So what year did they owe Alex Smith $10 million?
His last year, the year they
drafted
Mahomes.
But what year was that? Calendar year?
2017.
Okay, the pay scale for quarterbacks and every other position
hasn't gone up tenfold.
It used to be a great quarterback made $25 million a year at that time.
Sure, now they're making 60, so it's going up 2.5. So okay, pay Kirk Cousins $25 million, and we're in the same pay scale.
Yeah, but here's what I would have done. Is there that big a difference? And answer this honestly, in dollars and cents, between Kirk Cousins and Joe Flacco?
No.
Yes.
No, because you're going to use them as a bridge anyhow. If you're going to take a quarterback.
But Kirk Cousins gives you a better chance to win at a high level.
Okay, so right now. Yeah, but he hasn't done it.
Cousins just had him in the.
Kurt hasn't won him at a high level. Joe Flacco at least has. Joe Flacco took a team that was decimated at that position. Flipped their season around, took them to the playoffs.
And lost in the first round.
And lost in the first round. Kirk Cousins can lose in the first round just as easily.
But, I mean, is there Kirk Cousins is a significantly better quarterback than Joe Flacco.
How much money is Joe Flacco going to make?
$8 million, 8.5, isn't it?
Okay, $8.5 million? What are you going to pay Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins is making $100 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons.
All right, he's not $92 million better.
Okay.
He's not 92.
So what I'm saying is, after watching Joe Flacco do what he did last year, I don't think the guy's lost a step. I don't. I mean, from when we last saw him. Now, he's not Joe Flacco's Super Bowl Joe Flacco.
But also, Flacco
it's $5 million, but I was wrong. Flacco's making
$5 million or $50 million.
Flacco was also terrible for about 3 years, and then he was terrific for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Can't explain it. I don't know. And then he was also terrible in the playoff game.
But he was the terribleness of 3 years, to me, outweighs the greatness of 8 weeks.
I know, but we're talking about Kirk Cousins.
Hey,
I like Kirk Cousins.
The way this has turned out, Kirk Cousins is a bridge quarterback.
Yeah.
And you do not need to spend $50 million a year for a bridge quarterback.
I can't argue that. But I think in the moment, Arthur Blanks is desperate to win. He is, like we've had people in Atlanta who say, like, this guy is obsessed with trying to win.
He hears that clock tick.
By the way,
and Cousins gives you a better chance. Now, maybe not a $90 million better chance, but Cousins is a better quarterback than Flacco, gives you a better chance to win in the short term.
I'm not play
saying
next year, so we can just look at their numbers
it
and see where
just
they
goes-
This easily could be a disaster. This whole thing could be a disaster, and everybody could be fired.
You know what
It'll
it
be fine.
was? It was no biscuit, no risk it, no biscuit.
Yeah.
It's all in. We're all in on
yeah.
this move.
Hey, I told y'all, this just proves what I've been saying forever. That money and caps don't matter. They showing you in real time. They gave a man $100 million for like $180 million for 4 years, and then drafted a quarterback.
Well,
That money don't count.
But here's the thing: the quarterback that they drafted is not going to make quarterback money.
But here's the thing:
While Kirk Cousins is on the roster,
they're going to be handing this. So basically, you said we got you to be no one who cares about money and is fiscally conservative gives a bridge quarterback $100 million guaranteed. It just doesn't happen like that.
I've never seen it. I've never seen
No,
it.
I don't think we've ever seen it.
And this thing only works out just like the Cleveland Deshaun Watson deal. This thing only works out if they win a Super Bowl. If they don't win a Super Bowl, I just think.
The larger point here is I don't think Penix is the guy.
I don't either, and that's part two of my argument would be. I watched him 3 or 4 times in the regular season last year, and against scrub defenses like all college quarterbacks, he looked tall, strong, and could do anything. But when he faced off against the Michigan defense, can you call up his numbers against Michigan? I don't remember. I think he might have thrown for a lot of yards because they were behind and but I don't think he had a particularly good game. In fact, I think he threw a lot of picks. And that was an NFL style, top-ranked college defense.
Right.
He's going to see a lot more at the next level.
I don't want to go overboard in defending it. I think I see the logic behind it in that how much it costs you to move up in a draft in future years to try and get to the top 10 to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
We'll see.
255, 1 touchdown, 2 picks against Michigan.
Yeah. Not great.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
You know what was great? Jose Ramirez yesterday.
Yeah,
and I have a new read from Monopoly Go. So bear with me, guys.
It's the one. This one doesn't talk about your competitive
No, we're not.
spirit.
Well, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. This is literally brand new.
Okay. Hot
we
off
go.
the presses.
We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard ain't looking good. You're feeling low. Not sure you or your team can pull out a win. But that's when you dig deep. Lift your head up and say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. You can make all your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there. Put on your game face and download Monopoly Go today, free on the App Store or on Google Play.
Very good.
Jose Ramirez, guys.
Bankrupting your friends and smashing their properties. That does kind of sound fun.
It does.
Right.
It does. Jose did not bankrupt the Guardians when he signed his extension last year, and yesterday was another reminder of why he's so much fun to watch. The Grand Slam, the base running. When he's on, he's one of the most electric guys in baseball.
It's funny. I was listening to the game, and Tom Hamilton said during the 10-pitch at bat in which Jose hit the grand slam, it was the second inning of the game, and Tristan was throwing, and I knew what that meant. I said he'll get 3 or 4 innings before he's out, and Hamilton said right before the pitch, Jose has a chance to literally win this game right here.
That's crazy.
And I thought, man, that's a bold statement. It's the second inning. Now, it was going to put them up 5-1. I think that made the score. May have been 5-0. 5-0. But I thought, man, Tom, I never disagree with you, but it's only the second inning, and we've got a guy pitching that isn't going to get into the fifth inning.
Yeah.
But it ended up that he was right. And that at-bat shows the value of Jose Ramirez. With each foul ball, and I couldn't see it because I was listening to it, but with each foul ball, my level of confidence kept going up and up and up. Because anybody that's ever played the game or has been around the game for any length of time knows that those at-bats usually end favorably for the hitter. Mm-hmm. And it means that you're dialed in, he's not throwing anything by you.
And he's seen everything.
He's seeing everything. And when you show Jose 10 pitches in an at-bat, the likelihood is very great that he's going to do something big. And he did it. So the grand slam made it 5-0, and then my worries came true. McKenzie was struggling each inning he was in there, constantly guys on base, low velocity, not great control. He's out of the game, I think, in the fourth inning.
Yeah, but he still had 6 strikes.
No, I know.
It's so strange because I agree with everything you said, and yet he's still striking guys out.
But he's clearly not the dominant pitcher he was 2 years ago.
Correct.
He's striking guys out, I think, because his curveball was like 75 miles an hour.
He's got a great slow curve this year.
It is, and he needs it.
Yeah.
He has to have it.
I don't think that's by choice.
No, it's not. I think it's out of necessity. He's figured out. And, normally you're 13, 14 miles an hour difference between your high-end velocity fastball and your off-speed curveball. But because his velocity is down so much, it also has taken that much more off of his curveball. Mm-hmm. And it's become more effective. I think that's his best pitch right now. It's certainly not his fastball. They got through that, and then every single inning felt like a war. Every inning. Here's a run, here's 2, here's another one, here's another one. Gaddis came in and sort of slammed it, and then Clase, whom we're going to talk about later, came in and did his thing. But also, the run where Jose steals second, he would have been out, by the way, if the second baseman or shortstop had caught the ball. The throw beat him. But the throw trickled into center field, or into left field. He alertly took third base on the air by the shortstop. And then, with runners at first and third, I don't know if it was Naylor at first, whoever was at first, took off, and the catcher, in his anxiousness to catch it and throw down to second, let the ball get away. Jose came home and scored. So he essentially went from first to second to third on steal to home, and that was a little bit of insurance run that you felt good about. But that's Pete Jose right there.
Yep.
Agitator on the base paths, and don't give him too many looks at the plate. And I don't know if I'm ready to say that this is going to turn his season around, but I was glad to see it, and he has been a slow starter. So I think that I want to see what he does in this series against Atlanta because these are big at-bats.
2 home runs in the series. He went the opposite way, and he got a grand slam in this one. And look, it's when you get the vibes going, when you're starting to see the pitches better, it just seems like, okay, well, now you're hitting the ball a little bit better. Then he gives you that energy. Now he's running the base pass like he always does. We talked about what's more sustainable a couple weeks ago when we talked about the Guardians. And now I'm starting to think, McKenzie is not what he was 2 couple years ago. We've been talking about his elbow for about 2 years, it seems. But another thing that got me was they just recently shut down Gavin Williams, Jason.
I know.
And he had a setback. And I'm like, I think it was during his simulated start, and he had a setback. Do you got anything on that? Because that's really alarming. I was expecting to get him back.
He should have been back by now. But based on their original timeline of the spring training injury, I thought he'd be back on the mound by now. And the fact that they have to shut this down and almost restart it, I'm very concerned.
Yeah,
about
something's structurally going on.
Something's up. And that's why I'm so concerned about this season is just because the pitching is it's held together with Band-Aids and glue right now.
Yeah.
And you can do that against bad teams. Not saying Boston's a bad team.
Yeah.
Boston's pitching has been absolutely lights out.
Terrific. Yeah.
But this next little stretch, because I think they play Texas and Houston after Atlanta, don't they?
Yeah. Houston is.
Now I know Houston's
been a disaster.
Awful, but they're going to get it together. They're not an awful team.
Right.
They're just a team that's playing horribly.
Their pitching's been really banged up and hurt too.
That's true. But I
Boston
think
hit Carrasco hard the last time he was out, and Carrasco was one of the bright spots.
He had been.
Yeah. And they hit him kind of hard. So it's like, man, for once, you're like, you know, the bullpen is playing better. The bullpen,
I think we have the best bullpen in baseball.
They're
just
terrific right now.
I
did not like Gaddis in a starting role, but he has been lights out.
Been great. Isn't it funny, as we've watched historically, the guys that did it well, historically well, were Smoltz and Eckersley.
Mm-hmm.
They went from top shelf starters to best relievers in the game.
Yep.
It is a very difficult transition to make. Everybody wants to be a starter. It's tough to do that. But I agree with you, Jay. I think the way he's handled this, and I think he's got the makeup for it.
Yeah.
Because psychologically, it's a big, big deal to be able to come in when those outs are precious. And it looks like he's going to be the Miller to the 2016 team.
Right.
And it looks like Clase is the Allen.
Yeah, the high leverage reliever, as they call him these days.
It is. Yeah,
it is
a high
HLR, and that'll be Gaddis. If you have like one dominant pitch and one secondary pitch, you can do that.
You can.
All you need is 2 pitches. You could be a great.
And you're only going to see. You're never going to see anybody twice in
Right.
the same day.
Right.
And there is a big benefit to getting. You know, even though those are the hardest 3 outs to get in the 9th, and then the second hardest 3 outs to get are in the 8th. I think we are really well positioned to make these games 7 innings, and that's a huge benefit when you can do that.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about this weekend.
I don't know that you can get 5 and 6 innings out of the starters right now. It's across baseball that guys are barely making it through the 5th now.
I know it is, and I'm waiting for somebody to do the deep dive on the rate of injury. And I looked, and from mine, it wasn't a complete research project, but the one thing that I found that wasn't totally anecdotal, because I was going off anecdotally. I'm like, God, everybody's getting hurt. And I went back and I started looking. I'm like, well, guys get hurt in April. Pitchers get hurt in April, typically because you tried to go from 2nd gear to 4th. You've got to slowly ramp these guys up. And I know there's been a lot of, not a criticism, but the negative comments that I've heard on Vogt is that he's not stretching out his starters. Well, I'm okay with that. He's being overly cautious, and he should be. He's lost his Cy Young winner. Another Cy Young caliber pitcher that he has that's teetering and hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
I'm okay with being cautious in April. But I think that when someone finally does this deep dive, it's not going to be the pitch clock. I think it's the added emphasis on spin rate.
It very well could be.
And I'm waiting for somebody to really go into that and look, because anecdotally, I thought the injury was pitch clock related, but it's more with the inception of the emphasis of the spin rate.
Yeah.
Go back and look when that became a big thing, and that was only like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
I don't know if
the
it's been that
Astros
long.
staff really started pushing it,
Yeah.
and then everybody was measuring it, and then everybody was doing their best to increase it. And I know myself, when I try to increase my spin rate, it's putting more pressure on my arm.
Yeah.
So you think about it in combination. It's just like if you cut down on a play clock in the NFL, you say, I got 15 seconds instead of 20 or whatever the case.
Oh, you're going to have more injuries.
People are going to be injured. People are going to be tired.
Yeah, but in that case, you're adding to the workload.
Yes.
So in other words, instead of 60 snaps a game, you're going to go 75.
Right.
In this case, the pitch count, and I looked at this, the pitch count has not gone up. It's 100, and that's it. That's like kind of the limit for everybody. So the average pitch count for starting pitching hasn't gone up. What you've done is you've cut the duration.
And so
instead of 100 pitches over 2 hours, maybe you're doing 100 pitches in an hour and 40 minutes.
And what long-term effect does that have?
That's a good question.
That's because now I'm going 100%, and I'm doing it very short in a short spurt of time where maybe you feel like you got rest before. Now you don't.
Have you guys ever heard this? Bob Feller used to talk about this. We didn't get hurt. We didn't have pitch counts. And I'm wondering, did they really not get hurt?
I mean, go back and look at their starts.
They 40 starts a year.
Yeah.
You had 4 starters.
Crazy.
And they each made 40 starts a year.
But how much were they really throwing some of these exotic pitches that they throw today?
I don't know, but the old timers will tell you they're babies because we've babied them.
I mean, how much practice were they doing too? I feel like dudes came from
these guys went home and worked at the hardware store in the offseason.
And then came.
But here's where I disagree with that, because kids are having Tommy John surgery now. kids.
Well, kids have had
14, 15, 16
But I remember in the 80s, I pitched with a kid who was 15 and had Tommy John.
And I don't have the evidence to back this up. It feels like that's happening far more often now than it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
And I would answer that this way. The stress that you're putting on a 13-year-old's arm today, a top 13-year-old pitcher, is double or triple what it was when I was playing.
Absolutely.
Because here's what I did when I played. I played in a rec team. I played on a travel team. I had a very strict innings count. Now, my dad coached me for most of my years, so he was present for both and knew exactly how much work I had at one level. Now, watching my son go through this, and it's been 20 years since I've watched him go through it, but in the mid-'90s to late '90s, really into the 2000s, because he was 13 in 03, his travel team coach gave a rat's ass what he threw in rec, and his rec coach didn't care what he threw in travel.
Yeah.
They were not in sync. So there were days Corey would, if I wouldn't have stepped up, Corey would have pitched 60 pitches on Monday and 60 more on Wednesday. And that's when I noticed it wasn't Tommy John surgery, it was the growth plate. Yeah. And now we lived in Florida at the time, and the season never ended.
Right.
They played winter ball, spring ball, fall ball, travel ball, everything, 12 months a year. And there was this rash, including Corey, of kids that broke their growth plates.
Oh, wow.
And I remember saying at the time, I didn't know what a growth plate was when I was 12.
Yeah.
Now, another reason they were breaking growth plates is because they were throwing curveballs before their bodies were developed.
Yep.
You can't stress that spot in the arm at that young of an age.
Right.
So I think the youth thing is interesting. I'm looking more at these guys that are grown men that used to be able to pitch 40 times a year and throw 130 pitches and weren't getting hurt. I don't know what came first.
Yeah.
Was it the training or the injuries?
The training has certainly changed. I think that the way that they throw the pitches has changed. The break that they try and get. I don't want to discredit what was going on 60 years ago, 70 years ago, but I can't believe that the curves and sliders had the break on them that they do today. I mean, maybe Bob Gibson was.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I hope somebody does a really deep experiment or research project so we can know. We're jumping over to Channel 3. We've got 30 more minutes for you there. If you're in Cleveland, turn on Channel 3. If not, WKYC Plus, you can watch us worldwide. See you in 3 minutes.